Welcome back to The Bible's Art. We explore the literary artistry of the Bible, and this week we're going to talk about the literary art of Job's friends. No one reads the book of Job. Okay, well, they read the first part, the first few chapters, and they read the last few chapters, but like most of the book is the middle part, right? That's most of the actual content. Like if you read the numbers of the words and the chapters, most of it are these conversations between Job and his friends, and most people don't read it. And then you ask yourself, okay, so why do people not read it? And obviously the answer is, well, it's because it's hard, right? Like who's right and what's actually going on? And is there any sort of progression? It's just hard. It's difficult, right? And so what's the purpose of this section? Because clearly God wanted us to spend most of our time on this middle section, just in terms of words. If you just read it through, you will be spending most of the time on the friends, okay? So what's the purpose of this section? Well, first off, you should notice that precisely is the purpose. Now, the book of Job is in the corpus, in the genre of wisdom literature. So at very least, the book of Job is meant to make you wise, okay? And they're constructed not just to sort of give you wisdom, like you've got a box and you open up and you're like, okay, I've got wisdom now. But no. But all of the wisdom literature is designed in such a way that it makes you wise in the process of reading it, right? And so it's constructed in a way to not just give you wisdom, but to make you wise. And that's precisely the point. It's hard, and doing hard things makes you wise. But okay, so not just in the sort of general sense of hey, doing hard stuff is does good stuff to you, no? But there's a specific way in which this hardness is purposeful. And that's because when we read it and we try to understand who's right and who's wrong, it's that's precisely the problem of the whole book. Remember, wisdom from the beginning is the wisdom of discerning between good and evil, right? Hey, is a snake saying what's right or wrong? In the end, when we were wise enough, we were supposed to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is a different discussion, but the closest parallel do we have to that phrase of knowledge of good and evil comes later in the book of Kings. Because if we ask ourselves, oh, what does this actually mean? And sometimes people think it means that you know the difference between good and evil. Well, that's not true, because he had to know the difference between good and evil because God told him, do this and not do this. It doesn't have to do with simple knowledge like that. But when we see the closest parallel, it comes with Solomon, and he's given knowledge of good and evil, and it's a good thing. And then you see the example of him and the baby and dividing it, right? And that's an example of his wisdom. He's able to discern in these really tricky matters. And that's the idea, is that when they were wise enough, they would be able to eat from this tree and be a good judge. And so that's what's going on here, is it the very question of the book, right? See, the very question of the book of Job is why is he suffering, right? And in the middle of the book, we get a workout in discerning, is this person correct or is this person correct? And we have to work through these fuzzy matters, but it goes even deeper. So the whole point of Job's friends is that this is designed to do the very thing to the reader, similar to what happened to Job. So let me give you an example. Job's problem in the story is not our problem as readers. Job's problem was, why was he suffering? Now, that's not our problem. We know why he's suffering. So the genius of the author is that the author wants to put us in a difficult situation, in a quagmire like Job, but he can't put us in the same one because we know the answer as readers. We see into the heavenly council. So we are given a similar quagmire, similar difficult situation that we have to work through, and that is the friends. The friends' conversations and discourse will make us wise. They're similar because you're struggling to understand what's the deal with this thing, just like Job. And notice another parallel between Job's life and the reader's life. You see, The beginning of Job's life and the end of Job's life make sense. They're like good, right? Blessing, faithfulness, all the stuff like this. But the middle chunk of Job's life doesn't make any sense. And notice how that's paralleled in the very literary structure of the book of Job. The first part that we normally read makes sense to us. The last part makes sense to us, but the middle part doesn't make any sense. That's that surd in the middle, that confusing quagmire thing that we got to figure out. And in that figuring out, that's where we will become wise. But just like Job can't avoid the suffering, so the readers can't avoid the suffering. We have to suffer through figuring out what these friends are about. What's right? What's wrong? What's half right? What's half wrong? And that's where wisdom will be found. So the purpose of the friends, the purpose of this central thing in the middle of the book is to make us wise. It's to be hard, just like Job's life was hard, and in that process, make him and make us wise. And that, my friends, is why the Bible is art. Thank you so much for checking out the video this week. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to support the channel, that would be lovely. You can do so at patreon.com/thebiblesart. I've linked that below. If you'd like to be notified by email whenever a new video comes out, you can do that at thebiblesart.com/newsletter. If you have any questions or comments below, any ideas for other videos, I'd love to hear them below, and I'll see you in the next video.